Have you ever wondered why some cartoons disappear from TV without warning? One day they are everywhere, and the next they are treated like they never existed. Complaints can crush a show faster than low ratings ever could. Angry parents, confused viewers, or one unexpected moment can turn a beloved cartoon into a network headache. And as we count down the 20 cartoons pulled from TV after complaints, you may realize some disappearances were stranger than you remember. Number 20. Peppa Pig and the Spider episode, 2004. It looked harmless, just a simple short episode about Peppa learning not to fear spiders. But in Australia, this became a full-blown broadcasting problem. The episode suggested that spiders are friendly and safe to touch. Cute, in theory. Not so cute in a country known for spiders that can send people running for help. Parents immediately complained that the message was dangerous. Schools echoed the warnings. Australian broadcasters reacted by removing the episode from rotation completely, arguing that encouraging children to approach spiders was not just risky, but irresponsible for local conditions. What makes this case wild is that Peppa Pig is one of the safest, most controlled preschool shows ever made. Yet one tiny storytelling idea collided with real-world danger. The removal created a global conversation about how kids' content must adapt to cultural and regional realities. In the end, the episode stayed banned in Australia, proving that even the gentlest cartoon can cause unexpected chaos. Number 19. Family Guy, 1999. Family Guy has always loved pushing lines. Sometimes it pushed them a little too far for network comfort. Over the years, several episodes were pulled after waves of complaints from viewers who felt certain jokes were too sharp, too mocking, or simply too much for broadcast television. When complaints flooded in, networks responded quickly by pulling episodes from reruns or shelving them for long stretches of time. Some broadcasters even refused to show them again for years. The show's creators always argued that the humor was meant to be bold, fast, and fearless. But networks operate under a different rule. When enough viewers complain loudly, executives panic. They prioritize safety over creativity. And Family Guy became the perfect example of a show that lived on the edge of what TV could get away with. Ironically, the pulled episodes only added to the show's reputation. Fans treated them like forbidden treasures, proving that controversy sometimes fuels loyalty instead of silencing it. Number 18. SpongeBob and the Quarantined Crab episode, 1999. SpongeBob is usually a safe zone of silly chaos, but one episode found itself caught in the middle of a real-world problem. The Quarantined Crab episode was pulled after complaints that its plot about a quarantine-like event felt uncomfortably similar to global health fears. People said the timing felt wrong. Some called it insensitive. Others thought it could upset younger viewers already living through stressful conditions. Networks listened and quickly took the episode out of rotation. The episode itself was produced long before the real-world situation began. Still, once complaints poured in, Nickelodeon made the decision to avoid any possible misunderstanding. What is fascinating is how an innocent SpongeBob storyline collided with real public emotion. It raised a question: can a cartoon accidentally mirror a world people are tired of thinking about? In this case, the answer was yes, and the quiet removal of the episode became a reminder that timing can change everything. Number 17. Pokémon and the Porygon Incident, 1997. Few TV moments made global news the way this one did. The Porygon episode of Pokémon aired in Japan in the late 1990s. Midway through the episode, a sequence of rapid flashing lights triggered seizures and medical emergencies in hundreds of viewers. Parents flooded broadcasters with complaints. Emergency rooms saw children arriving with headaches, dizziness, or more serious symptoms. The incident became headline news within hours. Broadcasters immediately pulled the episode and announced it would never air again. The fallout reshaped global animation standards. Many countries introduced strict flashing light guidelines to protect younger viewers. Interestingly, Porygon itself was not responsible for the effect, but the episode was still blamed entirely on that character. As a result, Porygon and its evolutions practically vanished from the anime. It became the most famous banned cartoon moment of its era, and decades later, fans still talk about how one episode changed television safety rules worldwide. Number 16. The Simpsons, 1989. The Simpsons has never been afraid of controversy, but one episode was removed after rising complaints tied to the real world. Stark Raving Dad, featuring a famous guest performance, was pulled from circulation years after it aired. Complaints resurfaced due to issues surrounding the guest star's public reputation. Broadcasters decided it was safer to remove the episode rather than deal with the renewed attention and debate. Fans were divided. Some argued the episode was a piece of television history. Others said times had changed, and networks had a responsibility to react. What is interesting is that this episode ran without issue for many years. It was only after public complaints resurfaced that networks took action. The decision showed how the meaning of a cartoon episode can shift long after it is created. In the end, the removal became a cultural talking point about how shows handle their past. Number 15. Arthur, 1996. Arthur is one of the calmest, safest cartoons ever made, which is why its most controversial moment surprised everyone. In the 22nd season, an episode showed Arthur's teacher, Mr. Ratburn, getting married. Some viewers celebrated it as a modern step forward, but a few broadcasters received immediate complaints saying the topic was not appropriate for younger children. One broadcaster in Alabama pulled the episode entirely, refusing to air it. This decision sparked national debate. Fans argued that Arthur had always taught understanding, kindness, and respect. The episode fit the show's values perfectly, but broadcasters often panic when complaints pile up. And this was one of those moments where fear of backlash outweighed storytelling. What makes it more surprising is that Arthur had been airing since the mid-1990s with almost no drama, and yet, one gentle wedding episode became one of the most discussed removals in the show's long history. It proved that even the softest cartoon can get caught in a cultural storm. Number 14. Looney Tunes, 1930. Looney Tunes shaped generations, but some episodes were later judged too harsh for modern television. When the classics returned to rotation, viewers sent in complaints about scenes they believed showed outdated stereotypes, unsafe behavior, or jokes that no longer felt right. Broadcasters responded by quietly pulling certain shorts from TV. Smoking, explosive gags, and old caricatures triggered most of the complaints, especially when parents feared kids might copy what they saw. The tricky part is that Looney Tunes was created in a completely different era. Humor was louder, wilder, and far less filtered. Many fans argued those old cartoons should be preserved as they were, but networks wanted cleaner daytime programming. So instead of editing every scene, they removed entire episodes from broadcast schedules. The removal created a decades-long debate. Should old cartoons be judged by modern standards, or should they be shown with proper context? No matter the answer, the pulled episodes remain part of TV history that many younger viewers never got to see. Number 13. Cow and Chicken, 1997. Cow and Chicken was known for being loud, weird, and chaotic. But one episode crossed a line for many viewers. The Buffalo Gals episode featured a group of women who rode motorcycles and burst through doors to chew carpet as a running gag. Some audiences complained that the portrayal was mocking in a way they found inappropriate. Networks reacted almost immediately, pulling the episode and keeping it off regular rotation. What made this moment stand out was how fast the removal happened. Cow and Chicken had always pushed silly absurdity, but this episode sparked complaints about representation and tone. Instead of defending the cartoon, the network simply decided it was easier to erase the problem. The result turned the Buffalo Gals episode into a strange, half-mythic legend, something fans whispered about rather than watched on TV. Over time, it became one of those infamous cases where a single gag changed the fate of an entire episode. It shows how even pure cartoon exaggeration can clash with viewer expectations. Number 12. Ren and Stimpy, 1991. Ren and Stimpy built its entire identity on pushing boundaries. It was wild, exaggerated, and proudly strange. But network executives often found themselves handling complaints from parents who felt the cartoon was too intense for children. Over time, certain episodes were quietly removed from lineups because they were judged too chaotic, too frightening, or simply too much for morning broadcast slots. Ren and Stimpy was created during a period when networks feared angry phone calls more than low ratings. Every time a scene made adults uneasy, it became a target. This created a pattern. The show pushed further, complaints rose, and networks pulled episodes. What makes this case interesting is that fans loved the exact things parents complained about. The cartoon's boldness made it iconic. Yet those same qualities made it an ongoing headache for broadcasters. The pulled episodes became proof that daring creativity sometimes conflicts with what networks think a children's channel should allow. The show survives in fan memory, but many episodes were rarely seen again on regular television. Number 11. Tiny Toon Adventures, 1990. Tiny Toon Adventures was meant to be a lighthearted show for kids. Yet one episode crossed a surprising line. In the One Beer cartoon, Buster, Plucky, and Hampton experiment with drinking in a comedic, exaggerated way. The characters act silly, lose control, and end up in a dramatic final scene meant to warn viewers about the dangers of alcohol. But parents did not find the message clear. Complaints argued that the segment looked more like a joke than a warning. Networks did not want to deal with the backlash. So One Beer was pulled from regular rotation almost immediately. For many years, fans could only hear rumors about it. Ironically, the episode tried to teach responsibility, but viewers felt the presentation was too wild for children. Its removal turned it into one of the most talked-about lost episodes of the early 1990s. It proved how tricky it is to handle serious themes in a cartoon meant for laughs. Even a well-intended message can backfire when the style is too bold. Number 10. Tom and Jerry, 1940. Tom and Jerry has been on screens since the early 1940s, but not every classic returned untouched. When older episodes resurfaced, complaints quickly followed. Some viewers said scenes showed outdated behaviors, unsafe gags, or moments they believed children might copy. Networks took these complaints seriously and pulled several episodes rather than edit each moment. Cigarette scenes, explosive pranks, and older character designs became the main reasons for removal. What made this situation unusual is how beloved Tom and Jerry still is. Fans argued that the cartoon was pure slapstick, not a guidebook for real behavior, but networks are always cautious when parents complain, and removing episodes looked like the safest choice. Over time, multiple batches of Tom and Jerry shorts have been quietly taken out of rotation, leaving younger audiences with a cleaner, shorter version of the original run. It became a reminder that even animation icons are not immune to modern standards. What once made people laugh can later become material broadcasters no longer want to defend. Number 9. The Boondocks, 2005. The Boondocks arrived with sharp wit and bold social commentary, which instantly made it both celebrated and controversial. Some episodes landed so hard that networks received waves of complaints from viewers who felt the humor went too far or targeted sensitive public figures. A handful of episodes were pulled from rotation entirely, not because of low ratings, but because networks feared legal trouble or intense backlash. Fans loved the show's honesty and edge, but broadcasters prefer calm. The Boondocks often triggered the opposite. When episodes tackled real public events, the complaints grew louder and executives stepped back. Over time, certain episodes became legendary for being almost impossible to re-watch on television. What is interesting is that these removals only strengthened the show's cultural impact. People talked about the banned episodes as proof that the Boondocks refused to water down its message. In the end, complaints turned the show's sharpest chapters into underground icons that fans still discuss. Number 8. Powerpuff Girls, 2016. The 2016 reboot of the Powerpuff Girls had a mixed start, but the Painbow episode brought in complaints that forced the network to react quickly. Viewers said some dialogue and visual jokes felt tone-deaf or strange for younger audiences. Parents called it confusing. Reviewers called it off-key. The complaints grew loud enough that the episode was pulled from regular rotation, not long after it aired. The odd thing is that Painbow tried to revive the strange, colorful energy that made the original cartoon special, but the execution felt off, and instead of blending silly fun with charm, the episode came across as awkward. This made broadcasters nervous. They removed it before it turned into a larger headache. The removal became symbolic of the reboot's struggles. It showed how carefully modern networks watch viewer reactions, especially when handling revivals of beloved classics. Painbow's short broadcast life became one of those small but memorable TV moments where one episode summed up a show's bigger identity challenges. Number 7. Gargoyles, 1994. Gargoyles was dark, dramatic, and ahead of its time. But that tone also brought in complaints from parents who felt the action scenes were too intense for children. Sword fights, creature battles, and emotional confrontations made some viewers uneasy. Networks, especially those targeting younger, morning audiences, reacted by pulling certain episodes or restricting their airtime. What makes this case unique is that Gargoyles was praised for mature storytelling. It treated kids like thinking viewers, not passive watchers. But that same depth was what triggered complaints. Broadcasters feared that the show's intensity clashed with their daytime schedules, so they edited, trimmed, or removed episodes when the action pushed too far. This frustrated fans but showed just how quickly complaints can slow down a show's momentum. Years later, Gargoyles is celebrated for being bold, but many forget how close some episodes came to disappearing entirely. The removals proved that even quality storytelling gets judged by broadcast rules that favor safety over ambition. Number 6. Dexter's Laboratory, 1996. Dexter's Laboratory rarely sparked controversy, but rude removal changed that instantly. The episode featured Dexter and Dee Dee getting split into rude versions of themselves after a malfunction. The characters spoke in exaggerated, bleep-filled insults. Even though the language was censored, viewers complained the tone felt too intense for children. The moment networks heard those complaints, the episode was shelved. What makes rude removal fascinating is that it was meant as a fun experiment, not a troublemaker. But the idea of two cartoon children behaving outrageously triggered quick backlash. Networks worried that parents would see it as promoting disrespectful behavior. Instead of risking the debate, they pulled the episode entirely. For years, rude removal became a legend whispered among fans. People heard about it, but never saw it. Its removal turned it into one of the most famous lost episodes of the 90s. It remains a classic example of a cartoon crossing an invisible line that only becomes clear after complaints arrive. Number 5. The Proud Family, 2001. The Proud Family always handled everyday life with humor and heart, but one episode stirred up complaints that pushed the network into quick action. The episode highlighted community tension and emotional moments that some viewers felt were too intense for a young audience. Parents contacted broadcasters saying the themes were confusing or too heavy for kids. Networks, worried about upsetting families, quietly pulled it from rotation. What made this situation interesting was that the Proud Family had always explored meaningful topics. It was part of the show's identity, but when emotions in this episode hit stronger than expected, complaints rose fast. Broadcasters decided it was easier to remove the episode than deal with a wave of debate. Fans who believed the show's strength came from real honesty were frustrated. Over time, the episode became a reminder that shows for younger audiences walk a fragile line. One episode with a sharper tone can create a bigger impact than the creators ever planned. And in this case, that impact led to its temporary disappearance from TV schedules. Number 4. The Owl House, 2020. The Owl House built a passionate fan base almost instantly thanks to its creativity and bold world-building. But a few episodes faced complaints from viewers who felt the themes were too complex or too dark for children. Some parents said the storytelling leaned too mature. Others said certain character moments were confusing for younger eyes. Networks listened to the complaints and pulled select episodes or delayed them. What made this situation stand out was how divided viewers became. Fans loved the show for being smarter and richer than standard children's content. But networks are extremely sensitive to parent feedback, and even a small wave of complaints can cause a big schedule change. The Owl House's pulled episodes became examples of how even the most imaginative shows get scrutinized. Despite the removals, the fan community continued to support the series, often louder than the complaints that caused the trouble. Still, the pulled episodes proved that daring creativity comes with risk, especially in youth programming. Number 3. Bluey, 2018. Bluey is one of the most wholesome cartoons of the century, but even it found itself at the center of a small storm. The family meeting episode was briefly pulled in some regions after viewer complaints about bathroom humor. Parents said the joke felt out of place and did not fit the gentle tone they expected from the series. Broadcasters reacted fast and removed the episode from certain platforms. The surprising part is how mild the moment actually was. Bluey is known for soft humor and family warmth. Yet one silly joke triggered enough complaints to spark headlines and temporary bans. Fans argued the reaction was excessive, but networks tend to err on the cautious side when dealing with children's content. The removal did not last forever, but the incident became a reminder that even tiny details can lead to massive reactions. In this case, one simple gag transformed a harmless episode into one of the most discussed in the show's entire run. Number 2. South Park, 1997. South Park has always thrived on pushing boundaries, but pushing boundaries also attracts complaints. Over the years, multiple episodes were pulled from rotation due to intense viewer backlash. Some viewers felt the humor was too sharp. Others said certain portrayals crossed lines. Networks did not want to deal with legal worries or non-stop complaints, so they removed episodes from streaming, reruns, and international broadcasts. The interesting twist is that South Park's identity has always been built on bold commentary. The creators often responded to complaints with even stronger episodes, but networks operate under different rules. They value stability and avoid anything that might lead to sustained backlash, so the pulled episodes became symbols of the ongoing tension between creative freedom and network caution. Fans often treat those episodes like legendary lost chapters. Even people who do not watch the show know about the episodes that disappeared. Complaints turned them into broadcast ghosts that everyone talks about. Number 1. The Amazing World of Gumball, 2011. The Amazing World of Gumball mixes comedy, chaos, and creativity like no other cartoon. But one episode, The Responsible, was pulled after complaints that its storyline showed unsafe behavior involving a baby character. Parents said the exaggerated cartoon danger felt too unsettling. Broadcasters, worried about misunderstandings, removed the episode from certain rotations. What made the removal notable was how inventive the episode actually was. Gumball often uses over-the-top humor, surreal moments, and wild animation styles. Fans saw this episode as typical Gumball energy, but safety complaints can override everything, and networks chose to play it safe. The removal sparked discussions about how far cartoons can go when depicting risky scenes, even in exaggerated form. Over time, The Responsible became one of the most talked about early episodes of the show. Its brief disappearance showed how thin the line is between cartoon mischief and viewer concern. Even a beloved modern classic can find itself in the crosshairs of complaints.